Blucher, a game by Sam A. Mustafa. We did a little flip through, a little explanation how the game works. We played a little miniature scenario of a miniature war game, just a simple 6-on-6. Normally, you're dealing with, 15 to 20 maneuver elements. Each of those represents about a division. Without having played the full game, we're going to dive into the real reason I bought this game. I am fascinated by what Sam Mustafa calls campaigning with Blucher. First of all, it's not really a campaign, guys. Sammy, what are you doing calling this a campaign? It's a way to set up a single battle, which is not really I don't think about a campaign being a single battle. I think of it being a series of battles, each linked somehow in some way with the rest, whether they're in sequence or in parallel, different armies marching around the map. But be that as it may, we're going to go ahead and take a look at it because I think it's a wonderful way to set up a Napoleonic battle. It's very different. He gives you, now bear in mind, the maps for this are not included with the game. You have to go to sammustafa.com and download them. I'm going to show you what these 6 campaign maps look like. You've got Flanders, and it's pretty obvious, right? The big blue lines are big rivers that can really only be crossed at the bridges, not quite, but good enough. The small rivers cost extra points to cross. We've got little towns. Some of them have cities. We've got hills. We've got forests. We've got little farm fields. And each one of these squares translates to a 1 by 1 foot square on the tabletop. So through the course of this campaign, you're going to wind up selecting a 2 by 3 square area that will represent your tabletop. So we have Flanders. We have Northern Germany, which is a little bit different. Roads are important. We have Southern Germany, looks like this. And I don't mind showing this to you because it's free. You get the PDF, print it at home. And notice that as we get into Southern Germany, we have a lot more hills, a lot more double hills. It's a lot more forested than the more fields and a couple little mountains in Northern Germany. Okay, that's pretty good. Kind of makes you wonder what the peninsula looks like. This is, of course, Spain. Yeah, a lot of mountain ranges, a lot more hills, towns, kind of, this isn't, I don't know that this represents a specific place within Spain, but we do have Italy here. Again, a lot of mountains, some swampy areas. I don't know what part of Spain this would be, or Italy this would be in. And then we have Eastern Europe, which again, a lot of these dark forests. Little villages way out in the countryside. They're not linked by a road. And this is an interesting map because you've got 2 road networks. And what's going to happen is one of the armies is going to start on one side of the map, the guy with initiative. And the other army will start on the other side of the map. But this is where the concept of fog of war really starts to come into its own. And it's also where we're going to be in a little bit of trouble because we're playing this solo. How do you do the fog of war in such a manner? And so this is one of the things that we're going to be experimenting with as we delve into and explore the rules and the mechanics and the way the Blucher works. And I'm going to select a map at random. I'm not actually going to select it myself. I'm going to roll a d6, and that will be the map that we are going to use. So I rolled a 6, and that means I think we're going to be in Eastern Europe. Conveniently, Sam has gone ahead and done us the kindness. Yeah, we're in Eastern Europe. So quite a bit more terrain here than some of the other ones. A lot of forests, some hills, some mountains, and, the 2 road networks that are not linked. All of these rivers are small kind rivers. So what does that mean? Well, first, let's take a look at the 2 armies that are going to be marching back and forth across this map. I built 2, and I used very different styles for each of them. So this is also built on happyblucher.com, has a wonderful little army builder. It's on par with the 1-page rules version. And you go through and you can make, so look, I have 3 columns, 1, 2, 3. And the first column is worth 83 points. This, of course, is the British Peninsular list. So our British army is now marching in Eastern Europe. Okay, it's obviously an ahistoric scenario. The first column is led by Robert Crawford, and it consists of 3 units of foot and 2 units of heavy dragoons. Column number 2 is 3 units of foot and 2 units of heavy artillery. And column number 3 is 3 units of foot and light cavalry. So 3 very different. And in fact, I already messed up this light cavalry. You have to have 1 unit of cavalry acting as scouts. Now, they may come on the battle, they may not. So they're not with this column. There are certain various rules for how you set these up, but these are all... So there's our 3 different columns for the British. The French now are going to have 3 also. Well, they're actually about the same, right? 50, 60, and 80. And here for the French, I'm going to move this light cavalry over here. I'm going to do that for a reason, because I am going to take on the role of the French. I've got 2 units of light cavalry that are out scouting. And then I've got 3 columns. One column it's led by Jean Lenné. I think that's how you pronounce that. I've got 1 unit of guard infantry, 2 units of light infantry, and then cuirassiers, 2 units of those. 3 units of line infantry, 2 units of heavy artillery, 1 unit of guard infantry, and 2 units of line infantry. And as I said, my light cavalry may or may not be coming on the table. It depends on how things shake out. I am going to label these columns A, B, and C. And we're going to be able to refer to this. This is no fog of war. I know where they are. I'm moving them around. The British, as our opposition force, are going to be columns 1, 2, and 3. And to make things a little bit more unpredictable, I'm going to take the British columns and I'm going to scramble them. And I'm going to move them around the map, not knowing which is which. But you guys know columns 1, 2, and 3 are going to be... The reason I made them about the same is so that we have some surprises without too many. Column 1 has the dragoons, column 2 has the artillery, and then column 3 is the smallest. Otherwise, they all have 3 of the king's own foot. If you were doing this at home, if you were building your own, you might want to go with 3 slightly more even, with a little bit of horse, foot, and guns in each one. I've gone to make them a little bit different. So maybe when we get to our battle, I've got the artillery in the center. Maybe they're on the left, maybe they're on the right. I don't know yet. So I'm going to put them up there. And then likewise, but first let me flip them over and kind of scramble them up so I don't know which one is which. And then we'll put them up there. And they'll come on the table here shortly. Now, we have columns A, B, and C, and we're going to pay a little bit more attention to what's going on with our list. Column A is the strongest. It's got a total of 3 infantry and the 2 cuirassiers, but it also has our guard infantry. These are all 200-point forces. You're probably going to have a lot more than just 3 to 6 units. If you're playing a 300-point battle, you're probably going to have more like 5 to 10. There are limits to how big they can get. You could do a 400-point battle. And some maniacs, I think the Little Wars TV guys, have actually played with multiple armies. So you've got actually 3 columns that have to stay close to each other, and they built a much larger map. So this one you can see is 6 by 8 across, and I think theirs is like 10 by 20. Whole lot more extensive. It's basically a full, I want to say 1812. And I think the 1812 version available at sammustafa.com also has that. But we're going simple. We're going experimental, taking it easy, figuring it out as we go. And improvising along the way to make this fog of war game into a 1-player game. There are 5 turns that you can play. There's a 5-turn limit. If you don't come to grips and have a battle after 5 turns, then you're all a bunch of losers. Sam Mustafa has nothing but contempt for you. Remember I talked about the light cavalry? Our French force has 2 light cavalry units out scouting around, and that means we have the initiative. We get to pick which side of the map we want to be on. Now, one of the things I find highly amusing is that these little villages here are worth 1 victory point, and the bigger towns are worth 2 victory points. When we have a battle set up, so if this is our battle here, these 6 squares, then our tabletop will have 3 victory points on it. The rest of these don't really matter because whoever wins the battle wins the campaign. So what? I don't know. I think it's just an excuse to make sure that people are thinking about the victory points before you actually get to the battle. Hopefully somebody down in the comments, this game has been out for 10 years, can explain to me what the point of having these victory points are, if they're not really going to play that big of a role in the battle. We should talk about movement. Hex and counter, guys. These are squares, not hexes, but you know how this works. On the first turn, you have 3 movement points. It costs 1 movement point to move into a square. It costs along the road. So that's 1 movement point. And as long as you're on the road, it only costs 1 movement point. If you cross a line from one square to the next and there's no road, it costs 2 movement points. You get 3 on the first turn, 6 on every turn thereafter. There is a stacking limit of 1, no stacking. There is an additional cost of 1 movement point if you're leaving an enemy's zone of control. We all know what that means. The British column is here. The British move up to this point. My column B is here. I can scout them, which will tell me if, in the case of a 2-player game, if I've successfully scout this counter, my opponent has to tell me how many units are in that counter. I think we may just go ahead and flip the counter over, because if we decide to run away, if our small column is going head-to-head against their large column, I may decide, okay, now it's my turn. I'm going to move away. Now, because I start in a zone of control, normally along the road would be a 1-point move. It's going to be a 2-point move. And maybe that's because I want to move him over so that column C can race up. And now my big column is going after his big column, and his 2 other columns are way off in hinterlands, and they're not going to be able to make it to the battle in time. That would be an ideal situation. It costs an extra point to cross a minor river. If we had a major river without a road, that would cost a total of 2 points. In other words, this would be a 3-point if this was a major river. It's +2. So normally there's no road. This would be a 2-point move. But if this was a major river, it would then become a 4-point move. It takes a long time. And then, of course, major and minor rivers have a difference when it comes time to set up the map for the tabletop battle. Be that as it may, with all of that out of the way, we are now ready to start the game. Because I had 2 cavalry units scouting and they only had 1, I have what is called the intelligence, and that means I get to choose which side of the map I want to come on, and I think I'm going to go ahead and choose the side with the most roads. I'm going to bring my large column on first, and they're going to go 1, 2, 3. Now I've moved through Klebwitz, so that is 1 victory point, and I'm going to drop that here. I'm going to use column 2. Actually, I'm going to use column B to do that, because column B, remember, has my cannons. I'm going to use column A, which has my horsey boys, and it's going to move 1, 2, and they're going to be done. And then column C, which is just a big unit of infantry, I'm going to send them onto the table, and they're going to stop right there. So I'm done, and now the British get to move 3 times, and they'll take progeny, and they'll go 1, 2, 3. Let's see, 1, 2, 3. And they'll go 1, 2, 3 to here. So the terrain does kind of dictate how this battle is going to operate. Again, the little village here is a single victory. The little village is a single victory point. The larger town is 2 victory points. And so at the end of this first day, the French are caught lacking. Is that a town or a village? Yeah, 1 point to 3 points. Boy, howdy, are we in trouble. But we're not really, because we always intended to go for this more northern route. And again, the victory points don't care. I want to choose the terrain that suits me. This column A, again, my horsey column, will go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And they score an extra victory point along the way. But before we do that, maybe what we want to do is go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we have now secured all of those victory points, and boy, we're cooking with gas now. Especially because we magically turned the objective to the right color, and we are on turn number 2. But the British get a vote as well. And so they're going to bring this unit down here. That would be 1 point, but we're leaving an enemy zone of control. So that's going to cost them 2, 3, 4. Let's see. So that was 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, if I move here, that's 5. They're going to move 5 and then 6, and they're going to take this victory point objective away from me. Oh, they slipped around. They outflanked me. Boy, is my face red. Not only that, but they did pick up this objective right here for another point. And just like that, the tide has turned. They're going to bring 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then this guy is going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that will be the end of the day number 2. So here on day number 3, I have the option of trying to make this work. And so I think now, here's where we have some choices. The key thing to remember is that the 6x6 square that you choose for your battle, 2 enemy forces have to meet in the center. So if they're here, it's going to be these 6. If I have 2 of mine and 2 of theirs, like this, adjacent to each other, I get to pick which is the center square. Kind of powerful. So for example, I could bring column C down here and column A down here, and then I can choose whether this will be the tabletop or this will be the tabletop. And that's important for the tabletop battle in a lot of ways. As it is, I want to, now remember, I know that my heavy artillery is in column B. They can move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put them right here because I want them on my flank protected by the river. It's going to be difficult for any reinforcements to come on. Then I'm going to move my horses off to, well, let's see. So this column can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep, I'm going to bring my horses right up the center. And then that's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then, is it at the end of the day that you declare battle? I think maybe even it's at the start of the day. This situation now becomes, this guy can go 3 points. Yeah. And the reason that this works out really well for me is that the only way to bring him on the table right now, this unit, is to bring him over here, and then you stop once you're on the table. But instead, the British are going to do something a little cagey. They're going to go ahead and suspecting that I am going to declare this the table and not this, they're going to move up to here. And I guess we need to take a look at the rules. Because if I can declare this to be my table, that means column C can come on as reinforcements later. And this unit will be, sadly, out of position. Alternatively, if I declare this to be the table, oh no, it would have to be this. The British are going to come on at some point later in the game as reinforcements along this portion, that western side of the table on the northern half. They'll come in as reinforcements there. We move on to the next day of the campaign, day 4, and both players say, yeah, I want to fight a battle now. I'm happy with the way things are working out. Because they have the intelligence, because they go first, the French are going to get to choose, and they definitely want this to be our battlefield, these 6 squares right here, even though there will be reinforcements coming on from their flank, as it were. There's no guarantee those reinforcements make it in time. And not only that, but that means that this one objective will be the tiebreaker for the campaign. Notice that the French currently are in possession of 4 victory points. The British are in possession of 5. Whoever controls this town at the end of the fight, of course, if you crush the enemy, destroy their army, they're out of the campaign. They don't have anything left to fight with. Then you can send your boys out to take the rest of these red counters. But as it is, we're going to be at 4 to 5, and whoever controls the town. So the British now are going to be fighting on the defensive. Hold out long enough for your reinforcements to arrive. And we now have a fun little scenario. Let's find out exactly who on the British side is going to be set up where. So column 2 is going to be the reinforcements, and you've got columns 1 and 3. And just to remind you, this means that the British strong column with 3 regiments of foot and the heavy dragoons starts on the table in the bottom right corner, their right flank. Column number 3 is this small section of the King's Guard. So we're only going to have 6 foot regiments and 2 did I get that right? 6 foot regiments, 2 heavy dragoons. And we'll have to talk about the light cavalry here in a minute, because I also want to point out that facing them will be C, A, and B. Our center is very strong with that guard infantry. We've got the guard infantry and a couple more line infantry in B, so we're putting those guys here. And then B rather, is facing directly across from the town. So B is going to be able to bombard them and kind of soften up the British infantry. And then A will come sweeping in, and it looks like what we have here is a guard infantry and a couple of line just holding that flank. So kind of an interesting little scenario. Not the kind of thing that I don't believe I would ever come up with this on my own. And even more interesting, now that we've done all of this, let's take a look at what the terrain is going to look like. We're going to have a road coming through here and a road coming through here. So the roads are not linked up, and I don't know how much influence they have on the tabletop battle. But we have a swamp, forest. Most of this is forest. We have a nice tall mountain there. And if we take a look at what that terrain means, we'll just go right to the book and see how Sam describes it. We've got one large hill. Oh, that looks like a mountain, but it's actually one large hill. Are there any other hills on the table? Nope. So we just have the one large hill right about there. And you want to try to mimic this tabletop as best as you can. There's a river that comes across that whole side, this whole flank here, meaning I think it's going to affect how troops retreat. But again, as I said, the only reinforcements we have are coming in on this side of the table. In Blucher terms, column 2 trying to get on the table, they have to roll a d6 every turn. I don't remember at this point if it's at the start or the end of the turn. We'll figure that out when we play the game. That means that there is only a 1 in 6 chance per turn for the first 5 turns that column 2 enters the table. Then it goes to a 2 in 6 chance on turns 6 through 10, and then it becomes a 3 in 6 or 50-50 shot for turns 11 through 15. Given that you're checking 15 times, it's a really good bet that this column is going to come on the table, and it's probably going to come on, in all likelihood, before turn 6. Now, if column C decides to fall back, it may cost column 2 another 3 or 4 turns just to get down to where the action is taking place. We may have sent columns A and B full forward, and we're just going to kind of hold this gap with those 3 infantry. That's how I would speculate the battle would go for now, but it's really hard to predict these things because of the chaos of battle. And so there's really only one way to find out what this looks like and how this works, and that's to play the game, which we'll do next week on The Joy of Wargaming. Until then, I hope you enjoy this little walkthrough of the Scharnhorst campaign. I recommend picking up a copy of this book because you don't have to use Blucher to play this out. I could very easily see this being done as a 2x2 Napoleonics battle, which might be a little bit more appropriate for my collection. I didn't use any of the fancy pants. I don't have any light infantry. I don't have, it's just really basic common units to keep it simple, so I don't have to remember all kinds of special rules, and we can kind of focus more on the tactics and terrain and seeing how you zoom in on this little stretch of the Eastern European countryside where somehow a British column, a British corps has gotten wildly lost. Stranger things have happened in the real world. Why not here? Till next time, guys, I'm praying for you.